मुझे मेरे बेटे ने सवाल किया है, एक साल पहले वो बात मुझे याद है कि मुझे कहते हैं अबू जी हमारी फैमिली ट्रेडिशन क्या है। मैंने कहा बेटा हम अपने बड़ों की रिस्पेक्ट करते हैं। आई वाज हैप्पी कि PSN की फैमिली ट्रेडिशन यही है। सो थैंक यू PSN की, जिस तरह से आपने कल अपने बड़ों की रिस्पेक्ट किया, वाज वेरी इम्प्रेस्ड। मेरा जो टॉपिक है वो इट्स अबाउट idiopathic as mentioned and why we are calling it not so idiopathic. We need to come up with a different term. So these are my disclosures. Another disclosure I have to give you that I'm basically something about the membranous, the newly discovered antibodies, PLA4, THS-P7A, and how we can use these antibodies in the clinical practice. It's just not in the bench. How can we use this from bench to the bedside? So, causes of nephrotic syndrome, you all know. On the adult side, membranous and FSTS, they take up to 70%. So, membranous is still a 1/3 of the player of the nephrotic syndrome. How commonly do you see? I'm sure all of us has treated membranous. Please raise your hands if you have. Then the drugs. So just recall what drugs we use and what kind of response. कैसी जीन्स किस्म की बीमारी है, कभी ठीक होती है कभी नहीं होती, right? असर है. So what is this? So this is a very organ specific autoimmune disease. So kidney only is affected. You typically don't see other organ involvement, but you see complications from it. And we don't know what started that. We probably still don't know what started. Clinical course. So, rule of thirds, I'm sure everybody remembers that. 1/3 goes into spontaneous remission, the other third respond to the treatment, and the other third
resistant cases and they approach the anesthesia.
progress to PSR. And even when you try to treat this, you have to use like really heavy shotgun kind of approach, not a micro, not a targeted therapy. So we use cytotoxic therapy. So disease itself is there, complications are there, and treatment also causes more complications. So, just to understand that, we need to go back to the basics. So everybody is familiar with the filtration barrier, right? So usually for vascular core, they open capillary loops, and this is the filtration barrier or the basement membrane, right? So if you see the 3 layers of the basement membrane, so endothelium, basement membrane, and then this is epithelium with the porocyte foot process. So I just envision as if you are holding, this is your capillary loop, you are holding the basement membrane and the porocyte. The porocyte kind of send the foot process. You see that picture? So this is the foot process that comes like this. It's around the capillary loop, and the foot process are waiting your fingers, right? So how your fingers are connected, and between the fingers, those are the slit diaphragms, right? So there is injury to the porocytes. Porocyte goes through this process of apoptosis, and the fingers are not there. So the porocyte become like this. So now, when any porocyte object, you lose the foot processes are effaced. The fingers are lost, and there is more and more protein needed. So what happens in membranes? You see, there are sub-epithelial immune complex deposition, as you can see in the arrow. So these are the antigen antibody complexes along with the complement. So complement is the final common pathway to cause destruction. So these are, the areas, these are the battlefields where this reaction is happening, and you start to see the damage, and then you start to see the building. So it's progressive. Stage 1, then stage 2, the GBM tries to surround around those causes, and you start to see those spikes. Eventually it continues to go on, and then the deposits become intramembranous, and eventually leads to the burnout membranes. If you look at the silver stain, now by the way, remember one thing, all my fellow training colleagues, anytime there's a board question and it says silver stain, you know it's membranous. You know, I mean, there may be one or two other conditions, but for board purposes, remember silver stain, membranous. So these, on the silver stain, you see these spikes, right? So these are the spikes with the arrow. And these are the spikes that kind of projection on the outer surface of the basement membrane. So what do you see? Do you see a deposit or do you see the basement membrane? Yeah, so basement membrane is stained and you see the membrane. So, but because of the deposits you don't see much, and that's why you see these spikes. And when you see under the, for the immunofluorescence, so these are finely granular staining, predominant IgG4 along with the C3, which is present in the subepithelial distribution, as you saw on the, kind of immunofluorescence, and then on electron microscopy as well. This is the normal, electron microscopy, as you can see, the filtration barrier, endothelial site, epithelial sites. These are the processes I showed you. And then on the membranous, you can see the membrane is thick. That's why we call it membranous, right? It has these deposits with the D, and foot processes are E-phase. So going back, so how we historically classify this condition, right? We either call it idiopathic, which is roughly 1/3 to 1/4, 70 to 75%, and then we call it secondary, which is another quarter. And this has been associated with cancers, infections, predominantly BC, or other autoimmune diseases. We just heard about lupus membranous. By the way, lupus membranous के अंदर भी सबसे ज़्यादा heat है. Doesn't get that. जो मर्जी करते मेरा experience बहुत बुरा है, वहाँ आपको कोई success नहीं. Anybody with lupus membranous, मैंने तो जिसको treat किया देगा. Or other autoimmune diseases, transplant, drugs, toxins. So on the microscopy, electron microscopy, or routine testing, both primary and secondary, they look similar, right? But there may be some sort of some of the differences were observed. If it is secondary, you don't want to miss a cancer, right? You don't want, if this is secondary, you have to diagnose it if there is a cancer, because the treatment of secondary is treatment at a cost. But some of the other differences were that in idiopathic, or I keep calling it finally, there was predominant IgG4 deposition as opposed to other causes of like lupus or cancer. Other IgGs were there. So, and then in the secondary forms, you also saw either mesangial or subepithelial deposition, but it was finely meant to see like a very classic presentation on the subepithelial side. So back in 1959, the Heymann nephritis model was proposed. So what they took actually the glomerular action, चूहों के kidney से glomerular उसमें कश करके, and then they injected back into the other mice. So that was the animal model of the membranes. But the human model was never, even till now, we don't have a human analogous animal, like there is in situ immune complex formation involving native podocyte antigen. So some antigen is there. These antibodies come from somewhere. What starts these antibodies, we don't know. But at least, we know what's happening in the end. Antibodies are coming here, they go through, they find their target antigen. Once they find their target antigen, they attack that, and this is where destruction starts. This is where you start to see the deposition of those like the immune complexes, and then you see the damage. And there was another model, like what if there are non-native, this is a native antigen, the antigen which is there at the podocyte, this is non-native antigen, which somehow gets filtered through, goes through the basement membrane, comes on the epithelial foot process, gets stuck there, and then the circulating antibody comes and attacks them. So the first model can be described by seal sickness. This is what happens, maybe also in the lupus as well, because lupus you see the circulating immune complex disease. The second model was about the planted antigen Heymann nephritis, as this was originally described by Heymann. And the third, I described about this planted antigen. So it took us many years until back in 2009, we actually identified the Mendelian equivalent in humans. So this was M-type phospholipase A2 receptor, PLA2R. This was identified as the target antigen. So this paper was published by Dr. Beck. Wallace Beck is leading a lot of this effort on the membranous, and there are a couple of other groups across the board. So what he found that 70% of patients, now this is again within the idiopathic, the story covers 70% of it. 70% of these patients, there was this antigen identified, which is 185 kilodalton, and it is not present in other nephrotic syndromes like FSGS, diabetes, or other forms of membranous nephropathy. So this was a pretty, good discovery at that time. But they also found that, as I just mentioned, the predominant antibody is IgG4, right? So this was also, this kind of co-localizes wherever the IgG4 was, that was the PLA2R there. So, and what happened? So, I think one of the key factor was when in the lab people were doing the experiment using the gel electrophoresis. So the experiment was done in the non-reduced, like in the reduced state when the disulfide bonds were broken. So that's why we were not able to discover, it was always there, but we were unable to discover that antigen. And then this led to the discovery of antibody as well. And what happens after antigen-antibody reaction, is this complement dependent or complement independent? We have some idea because there is some associative data, but not the definitive, because IgG4 is typically not complement fixating antibody, and you see a lot of complement there. So more to discover on that as well. While the discovery process was going on, I think that the groups got together, another antigen and antibody was discovered. So this is again a long name. Do I have to say it? Thrombospondate type 1 domain containing 7A. I will call it THS-D7A. So this is 250 kilodalton size. It is slightly larger, and again shares same features. This was IgG4 subclass, and it was seen in this reduced form, but non-reduced form, but not in the reduced form. And the other, I think they took it to the next level, that when THS-D7A, there was a study that they published together that once you start treatment
the level of the antibody starts to go down. So there's antibody, there's disease condition, you start treatment, antibody is going down. Is the story kind of making some sense to you? Good, thank you. So then all these people, there was French cohort, Dutch cohort, and a British cohort. Somebody has this idea, how would link and try to find a genetic association. And in fact, there was one. There was a risk allele which was on chromosome C, 6p21, which has, a genetic predominance. So there was a discovery of, the native antigen and antibody. I mentioned about the planted antigen as well. Like, what if there was an antigen which was kind of, just free floating and got filtered, and now they created the antibody response. So this was discovered, I think this was a Canadian study, on a small scale, infants, so kids less than 1 year of age, typically. So there was a rise in membranous nephropathy. I think probably it was because this was a referral center, so a lot of patients were referred to them. And they found that the child's intestinal barrier is really not, mature enough, I should say, infants, to allow the cow albumin. So these kids were not formula fed, they were or breastfed, these were on the cow's milk. So this led to the filtration of the serum albumin, and which actually started there was antibodies to the bovine serum albumin, which created this reaction. Again, in these patients, PLA2R was negative, and they presented and behaved like classic membranous, but certainly they did not belong to the, kind of the PLA2R antibody membranous category. So now we have, discovered these antibodies. We have the PLA2R, DHSD7A, the milk and membranous. It covers a very, small group of patients. What are we going to do about this, right? So I have, it's kind of, you have a toy or you have a car, you don't know how to play with it. So now we need to come and see how I'm going to use these conditions or these things. So this is perfect. क्या मुझे फिर extra time मिलेगा अगर? So how to diagnose and further classify this, right? So this was actually, first this was validated by many other groups. So in the first paper, they saw 70% has this antibody. Others papers said that 65%, I think if you combine, this was the meta-analysis. So it kind of tells the story, 65 to 70% has PLA2R, roughly 10% has D7A, but there was background noise as well, right? You have a discovery, but usually things are, there's always some humbling experience in life, right? So these people found that not only the PLA2 was present in, these idiopathic membranous, but there was a small, very small prevalence of positive PLA2R in secondary forms, especially lupus and cancer-associated membranous as well. Although the N for these studies is very small as well. So later, I think the data suggested that maybe a background noise may be true. So the pie chart switched now. So instead of calling it idiopathic, we should call it primary. So anti-phospholipase A2 receptor 70 to 80%, DHSD7A 10%. We still have some unknown antigens, and secondary is 25%. Now, when I was flying, I think a day before I took my flight, I just saw there was some activity on Twitter, and this paper, which is, it's kind of it's published, but it's not finalized. It's in the draft form, but I think they just went on and made available to the public. So there is another neural tissue associated protein. So there is another discovery of a protein, NEL1, PLA2R negative patients, they used a different technique, laser microdissection, and shared similar features. So then I saw activity. So Lawrence Beck and Richard Gloss are talking to each other. So Lawrence is saying that now, hey, I have this NEL1, somebody discovered this, and Richard mentioned that, yeah, we now have a pretty decent idea, and pathogen, like he mentioned that 90% now we know what causes primary. This is the time to retire the term idiopathic membranous, but not quite. But I feel, it's high time that we retire this. So moving from discovery to some sort of how we can use this in the treatment phase. You all know the treatment, right? Either Ponticelli protocol, Dutch protocol, which cytotoxic therapy combined with steroids, or CNI also have a second choice, CNIs. So cyclosporin, tacrolimus, rituximab, which is we usually call it vitamin R, right? Because now it's being used in renal conditions as multivitamins. So it's vitamin R is also being used, and some other therapies. So this article recently published as well, which compared rituximab with standard of care, which is, CNI or cyclosporin is one of the standard of care, and found that rituximab is non-inferior. You know how a lot of these trials are superiority or non-inferiority. So it's non-inferior as compared to cyclosporin at 12 months. But if you go on to 24 months, as I think you mentioned this, long-term use of rituximab, this rituximab is certainly a winner long-term. So 24 months is certainly much better. What else you can do? So the PLA2R can be used to monitor the disease as well. PLA2R patients are nephrotic, PLA2R is high, they achieve remission, PLA2R is down, there is relapse, PLA2R is back up, and there is a pretty strong correlation. The other is, if somebody has idiopathic membranous in remission, their PLA2R remains low. But if this is anybody who has active disease, their PLA2R is high. So this is just to prove some association, right? Another, way to look is how long do you stay disease-free if you are PLA2R positive at the end of the treatment, or you are PLA2R negative. And as you can see that if you are PLA2R positive, the disease will come back, and maybe quickly. So there is another, interesting aspect to the nature of this disease. So this was, I think they said that this study published a case series of experience of use of patient response after rituximab. So some of the patient, it took 6 to 9 months after the treatment before the antibody level came down. But there was a lag in proteinuria coming down. So antibody level came down first, proteinuria followed. So they call it there is immunological activity and biological activity. This also tells us that ye kachwa aur khargosh ki kahani hai, right? This is tortoise and hare. So this is more like a kachwa, right? So it comes slowly, but it also leaves you slowly as well. As compared to minimal change disease, you see those rapids, in and out. So I think I'll go towards some of my summary slides, and I have a case to present at 4 minutes more. So again, PLA2R and some of these antibodies which we have discovered, this is highly specific for primary membranous. It starts several months before the onset of proteinuria. It is low or declining. It predicts the remission, right? If the level is high, you need prolonged immunosuppression to achieve remission. It's present in the nephrotic state, and this is a good biomarker. So I'll share a patient of mine. I was 2 years ago, a colleague nephrologist referred a patient for second opinion, classic membranous. We did biopsy, and caused complication. Patient had membranous PLA2 positive, treated. 2 years later, PLA2R started going up. Patient is back into my office again to have another biopsy. I said, we don't need to do biopsy. Can we avoid doing biopsy because you are getting this antibody tested every 3 months? We did not do biopsy, treated him this time with rituximab. It took him 3 months to achieve remission. So we avoided biopsy by utilizing this antibody in clinical practice. This is another case, very recent. So December 18, male patient, high risk, secondary workup was negative, classic membranous, and the PLA2R antibody level was more than 5,000. The cutoff is 14 maybe. So this was very high titer. So this was his proteinuria graph. So initially, he was in a different clinic. So the plan was to do wait and see. A lot of physicians in membranous, we all do wait and see. But I think he was a high-risk patient to begin with. But after 4 months, proteinuria was going up, so he received rituximab. So this was given here when his proteinuria was 14. Proteinuria came down to 7, right? But antibody level came down from 5,000 to 2,560. And we had a case conference here. Now he is 2 months into it. Somebody saying, oh, maybe we need to treat him again. I said, wait, just do another antibody test. And by the way, this came down to now 160. Another test a month later is 1:8, right? Treat him again or wait and see?
Wait and see.
Treat him? Wait and see. You got it. And then I saw this paper published, I think, around the same time when I shared with my fellow who was seeing the patient. So this was a nice study. So they took 2 rituximab treatments, a high dose, like a gram Q2 weeks, or body surface area base 375 milligram per meter square. For the low dose, it took 9 months to achieve remission. For the high dose, 3 months. Our patient was given high dose in 3 months. I have not seen his follow-up as of yet, but we did the same as you mentioned. We did not, as of yet, he's not on another course of rituximab, we are waiting. So, but there are still questions which are unanswered. What's the best way to measure this antibody? What's the right level, right? And what is the precise pathological mechanism? We have not cracked that nut yet. What's the role of biopsy if you have antibody panel positive? Are we there yet that we can just check the antibody and say no to biopsy? What is the role of immunosuppression in somebody who has apparently the secondary membranous or they have declining antibody level? Can we come up with targeted therapies? So, but I would also say that this is a good story that how a discovery at the bench is leading to good outcomes at the bedside. Thank you. This has been my journey. My med school, my residency, Dr. Umar is sitting here. He was our chief resident with 2 years, he was 2 years senior chief resident with me in this hospital. Do you recognize Daniel? And this is where I am right now. I completed my fellowship and my Master's of Science in Cancer Health, and I'm there now for the last 11 years. Thank you.
We will have question answer at the end. Can we call idiopathic now autoimmune